What's up, everybody? I'm Josh Meek, the Uber Geek. Welcome to Pretty Dece, your daily entertainment and pop culture show. Today on the show, we're going to talk about one of the biggest movie releases that happened this past weekend, and that's Deadpool 2. Now, Deadpool 2 is a movie that I was looking really forward to for a long time, the follow-up to the original Deadpool, which at the time was this, crazy, can't believe it's happening movie. It took years of lobbying to even get made. People weren't really sure it was going to work, this kind of R-rated comedy superhero movie, and it was coming into theaters as this kind of underdog, and it kind of felt like that as you watched the original Deadpool. Deadpool 2 finds itself in a very different situation than the first film. Instead of being the scrappy underdog, it's now the cash cow. It's kind of a guaranteed success, and it's created this entire category of R-rated superhero films that works, and that is a proven success at this point. So Deadpool 2 needed to find something new to kind of hang its hat on. It couldn't be that scrappy underdog anymore. They needed something new to keep you interested and keep you hooked. And the thing that they added to this film was this kind of extremely earnest tale about love, loss, and family. Which is also, unfortunately, the thing that I liked the least about this movie. Now, I still loved Deadpool 2. It was overall a really fantastic film, but I think the parts of the movie where they tried to kind of reel back and make this very sincere tale were kind of the weakest parts of the film. Now, in general, I think that's a wise direction for them to go with the movie. Obviously, slapstick comedy and potty humor can only go so far, and at the end of the day, you need a reason to care about Wade Wilson, more than just the fact that he breaks the fourth wall and says funny things. So the movie needed to progress in this direction. We needed to build Wade out as a character. The problem is this movie jumps headfirst into trying to have this very, earnest emotional core, and they assume that they nail it a little bit earlier than they actually do. It takes a bit more, I think, than they're expecting for the audience to shift from laughing at potty humor to watching a character cope with loss in a very real way, to watch a character want to kill himself but not be able to watch a character figure out what in the world kind of fatherhood means for him in a strange way. These things are very sincere, and they're not even done poorly in the movie. They make it about 90% of the way there. It just feels like at times the film kind of turns on a dime. As it stands, the movie feels like it's being pulled in two directions. One direction is the irreverent, ridiculous comedy romp that audiences were expecting as they came into Deadpool 2, and the other direction is this more serious movie about a man figuring out what family is and what loss is and how to kind of pick up the pieces from that point. And the combination of those two things is sometimes a little at odds with each other. Now, all that being said, as I mentioned, I still really did love this movie. It was almost as good as the original, if not better. I would have to go back and rewatch the original to really know for sure. But I think that it did have some points of improvement that it could make with its emotional storytelling. But let's jump into the things that I loved about this movie, that I was ecstatic that they did. First of all, the way the movie handles X-Force is absolutely hysterical. I won't spoil what happens, but it was a pretty shocking direction for them to go from seeing the trailers for the movie, but I really loved it. It was one of the biggest laughs in the entire film, and I really liked kind of what they did with X-Force there. And of course, the most prominent member of X-Force in all the trailers is Domino, played by Zazie Beetz. I think she was maybe my favorite part of this film. She was this amazing character that I wouldn't mind getting more info about. We didn't get much info about her backstory, just kind of a little peppering here and there. So I would actually love to see this character, show up again in future movies, or getting her own movie. I would love to see a solo Domino movie based on this character, this portrayal by Zazie Beetz. She was really fantastic. And her powers, based on luck, actually lended themselves to not only hilarious jokes, but also some of the best action scenes in the entire film. So again, focusing an entire movie just around that character and around her powers and all the crazy ways that they can help her out in action situations sounds like it'd be right up my alley. Likewise, Josh Brolin's Cable character was a really awesome addition to the franchise. A serious as nails soldier from the future fills in very well with the obviously, wisecracking Deadpool. Those two kind of yin and yang fit together wonderfully. And that's a pairing that has worked extremely well in the comics for many, many years, and I'm really happy to see that brought to the big screen now. Now, the character of Cable, of course, anytime that you bring time travel shenanigans into a story, it's very easy to poke plot holes into it. Like, well, okay, well, if he's changing the past, why didn't these things happen? Why didn't he cease to exist? Why didn't he use his time travel device for this or for that? Or why didn't he do both things? There's a lot that you could really sit and think about and kind of poke holes in it as it goes. But that's just the nature of the beast with time travel. Obviously, Cable is a time-traveling character by his very nature. It's required that he comes from the future in order for that character to work. So it's not really something to hold against Deadpool 2 and something that you just need to be aware of going into the film. Now, the entire look of Cable, all of his guns, his robotic arm, like everything was really awesome. They really nailed kind of exactly what I picture in my head when I think about Cable, and exactly what I've seen on the comic book pages for many, many years. So really, really, truly knocked it out of the park with Cable himself. Now, the end of this film, it was a film filled with really hilarious jokes. They broke the fourth wall, I think, in a much more daring way than the original Deadpool did. They were much more willing to let Deadpool point out that it was a movie that he was in and what the plot of the film was. And where they might have kind of just hinted at it in the first film, he full on comes out and does that in the film, which I think is a really smart play. Great film overall. But the end of the movie actually is super interesting. They leave it where they can head off in some very cool directions for both Deadpool and the surrounding characters. They could take it off into solo movies that focus on Deadpool less. They could head into kind of an X-Force movie, or we could just head on into Deadpool 3, a sequel. But nonetheless, I'm really excited about the direction they can go for this entire little universe they've created. And more than just Deadpool himself, I really like the world building and character building that they did for this film. So that's going to do it for Pretty Dece for today. Thank you very much for joining me to talk a little bit about Deadpool 2. Definitely go see it if you enjoyed the first film or you just like good, funny things. You will not be disappointed. If you like this show and you want to see more, new episodes of Pretty Dece premiere weekdays at 8 p.m. Eastern on twitch.tv/PrettyDeceShow. You can also check out the daily episodes on the podcast feed or the YouTube channel at prettydeceshow.com/video. Finally, catch me on Facebook and Twitter at Pretty Dece Show.